SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So, hello everyone. Right now we will be discussing the collective action problem and the application of prisoner's dilemma in understanding this collective action problem. As we have already understood that this collective action problem has been analyzed by taking into account so many theories starting from Hardin's to Olson's. So, now we will be discussing how the same problem, that is collective action problem, can also be explained in terms of this prisoner's dilemma game. So, before understanding the problem itself, let us understand what exactly is the prisoner's dilemma game. So, if you are talking about this collective action problems, then we have already understood the theory of public goods, because this theory also helped in describing the kind of the characteristics that the collective good is possessing, and it is because of these characteristics these public goods are leading to some issues. So, these are these ideas which is already been explained by the theory developed by P. A. Samuelson. And the second one that is also can be helpful, or you can say it can be a major analytical traditions in understanding the collective action problem, is by the game theory itself. And this game theory was propounded by Newman and Morgenstern in 1944. So, although the game theory was originally propounded in 1944 by these two fellows, but prisoner's dilemma is actually a very analytical tool which makes us understand the issues of collective actions. And again, prisoner's dilemma, although it is a part of the game theory, but still it has been developed by Merrill Flood and Melvin Dresser in 1950. So, what exactly is this prisoner's dilemma? So, you can say that this is a standard example of the game theory that shows why two completely rational people might not cooperate. What is the reason behind this? Even if for the third person it is appearing that if they do cooperate, it is in their best interest to do so, but still the rational individual, because they are actually following the rationality concept, that is why they will not be interested in cooperating with each other. And interestingly, why this kind of strategies, or why this kind of phenomenon or game you can say is known as prisoner's dilemma, because for the very first time Albert Tucker formalized this game scenario with the example of prisoner's sentence and reward, and because the example is explained in terms of prisoner's sentence and reward, that is why it is known as prisoner's dilemma. That why two prisoners, they are not interested in cooperating, although if they are rational in choosing their choices, although for both of them it is beneficial if they can cooperate each other. So, in this situation a dilemma is created which is known as prisoner's dilemma in this example. So, let us understand what exactly is this prisoner's dilemma by describing the situation itself. So, here he talked about the situations that two members of a criminal gang, they are arrested, and that is why they got this they are put in prison, and each prisoner is in confinement. He don't have any connections with the other prisoner, so that he is not able to communicate with each other. So, in these conditions that both of them are isolated and there is no chance for communications. So, both of them do not know what the other will do, whether he will be confessing the crime or not. So, now what happens? The prosecutors, because of the sufficient lack of evidence, so they are thinking to convict both of them on the principal charge, and they hope to get this kind of sentences, that sentenced to a year in prison on a lesser charge, because the prosecutor itself, he is not also getting sufficient evidence to convict them. That is why they are following a lesser charge by putting each of them in the prison by less than 1 year. And simultaneously, the prosecutors, they also offer each of the prisoners a bargain. So, each prisoner is given the opportunity in these cases either betray the other by testifying that the other committed the crime. So, this is the first option, this is the first bargain, and the second one is to cooperate with the other by remaining silent. So, what would be now the strategies of these prisoners? Either to betray, the first option, or to cooperate. So, given these two offers, two alternatives, now the offers would be that if both of these prisoners, let us say A and B, they each betray each other, then they will be getting the sentence for 2 years in prison. Both of them, they will be getting 2 years of sentence in the prison. And if in this condition that the first prisoner A betrays, but B remains silent, then A will be set free. However, B will be serving the full year sentence, that is 3 years in the prison, and also the vice versa. That means, if B betrays but A is remaining silent, then B will be set free and A will be serving the term the prison term for 3 years. And the fourth case is that if both of them, A and B, they are remaining silent, so that is a kind of cooperation, you are saying, cooperating each other. So, both of them will only serve 1 year in prison, which is less than 3 years. So, given these offers, these alternatives, now what would be the strategies both of these prisoners will be following? So, this is explained in terms of prisoner's dilemma payoff matrix. So, let us go through that this matrix first, that the strategies both of these prisoners are following, that they can be silent, they can be betraying each other. So, let us say that A is remaining silent and B is also remaining silent. So, now the payoff both of them are getting is -1 -1, that is 1 year in prison. So, both of them will be serving 1 year in prison. Since getting the sentence imprisoned is a negative, so that is why it is, we are putting negative minus before 1 and 1 year sentence for each. So, now let us talk about the second strategies, that A is remaining silent, however, B is betraying. So, in this context, the payoff that we will be getting is -3 and 0. So, that means here we want to say B betrays, that is why he is set free, he is not going to get any prison term, but A, since he is remaining silent, he will be punished for 3 years in jail. if you are looking to the alternatives for A, in case A is betraying and B is remaining silent. So, the payoff that we are getting, A is betraying means that he will be getting no sentence. So, he will be out of the prison, and B is remaining silent, that means he cannot actually defend whether he has done the crime or not. Being silent means he has, so it symbolizes that he has committed the crime, that is why he is getting the full term of prison, that is 3 years. So, it is -3. So, if you are looking to the case A is betraying whereas B is also betraying. So, that means no one is confessing who has committed this crime. So, the prosecutor will now be confused that what to do. So, that is why because of the lack of evidence, so both of them will be getting 2 years sentence. So, this is what is explained in terms of a prisoner's dilemma case. So, now let us explain it that betraying a partner obviously offers a greater reward than cooperating with each other. How do you find? If you are betraying a partner, that means it is betray and betray, that is A is betraying and B is also betraying. So, what is the matrix you are finding? It is 0 -3 or -3 0, right? And purely rational self-interested prisoners, they obviously choose to betray the other. So, the only possible outcome for these two purely rational prisoners is to betray each other, because they are rational and obviously they want to maximize their own utility by setting themselves free by getting 0 imprisonment year. And in this case, if they are following this mutual cooperation, so in this case in fact this is superior to the mutual defections. Mutual cooperation means A is also cooperating by remaining silent and B is also cooperating by remaining silent. So, no one is actually saying the other has committed the crime. So, in this case they are actually creating a scenario of cooperation, and as a result the sentence they will be getting is -1 -1. So, if they are following the mutual cooperation, so this will be the matrix for them, and if they are following mutual defections, that means A is also betraying the B and B is also trying to betray A, that means A is blaming B that he has committed the crime, and B has also said this the same thing that A has committed the crime. So, the prosecutor will now be confused that who has exactly done the crime, and someone must be lying in this case. So, that is why the matrix that we are getting is -2 -2. So, if you compare this situation, then obviously -1 -1 is greater than -2 -2. That means -1 -1 must be preferred over the -2 -2. That means each of them, it is likely that both of them should prefer 1 and 1 year in sentence in comparison to 2 and 2 years sentence in this case. So, if they mutually cooperate each other, their sentence duration can be decreased to 1 year and 1 year each, and if they are actually mutually defecting, right. So, it is a kind of case of not cooperating each other, then this sentence duration will be increased to 2 year and 2 year for each of them. But since this is not a rational outcome for each of these self-interested individuals or prisoners, because if the prisoners follow the rationality principle, then they should be trying to set themselves, I mean himself, free, not taking the others into account. So, that is why they cannot, this situation of mutual cooperation is not a rational outcome for a self-interested prisoner, and both of these prisoners are claimed to be self-interested. So, in this case, it is not at all a rational outcome from a self-interested perspective, as choice to cooperate at individual level is irrational. So, here both of them they are realizing that at the individual level, following the principle of rationality, if they are going to cooperate, then it is not at all a rational choice. So, this is what we are drawing a kind of dilemma, that whether the mutual cooperation, although it appears to be superior to mutual defection, but why both of these prisoners here are not cooperating. So, in this case, as we understood from the game theory strategies, then we are finding that this defection is the dominant strategies, and the payoffs are 0, -3 and -3, 0 for both the prisoners A and B. And here the game involves the strategic interactions, because the players do not have complete control over their own payoffs. So, what exactly is the dominant strategies? Because we are saying that 0, -3, -3, 0 is the dominant strategies for both of them. Then what is the meaning of dominant strategies, or how you define dominant strategies here? So, in this context, the dominant strategies can be defined as the strategies which dominate another if the first strategy always yields a payoff at least as good as, and sometimes even better than the second option, no matter what any other player does. So, when we are saying that it is -3, 0 and 0, -3, they are the dominant strategies, then you can find out that these strategies dominate the options for the second, irrespective of what the second person is doing. So, in this context, the defection is the dominant strategies for both of these players, because they are getting the highest payoff for them. So, if you are comparing the strategies of A, that is as per this dilemma, a prisoner's box, we are finding -1, -3, and here we are finding that this -1, -3 is obviously less than 0, -2, right. So, in this context, defection is a dominant strategies for A. So, whether this 1 year sentence and 3 year sentence is preferable, or 0 year sentence, no sentence, that means, and 2 year sentence is preferable. Obviously, 0 year sentence, that is no year sentence, and 2 year sentence is preferable over the 1 year and 3 year sentence. That is why for A, defection is a dominant strategy, that obviously he will be preferring to defect, not to cooperate. And so far the strategies of B is concerned, we can take the payoffs. So, what we are finding? We are finding -1, -3 and 0, -2 in this case. Then also by analyzing the same thing in the same manner, then we will be finding that this defection is also a dominant strategies for B also. So, in this case, as you understand that defection is the dominant strategies, so both of them will be following. So, what is the conclusion we are drawing from this common prisoner's dilemma, and how it can be related to, or how it can help in explaining the collective action problem. So, if you understand what is the collective action problem and what kind of conclusion we are drawing from the prisoner's dilemma, then we can conclude that the problem of collective action is just the same that we are finding the problem of the prisoner's dilemma. They are essentially same. But the question is that how these two problems are same? How we can say that the problem of collective actions is just equivalent to, or it is similar to the problem of prisoner's dilemma that we have described in this scenario. So, let us talk about these collective actions And we have already understood from the theory of Olson's theory of logic of collective actions. There we talked about the concept of latent groups. So, if you are analyzing the latent groups, then here individual effort to achieve the individual interest will prevent their achievement, because if the collective good is not provided, then individual member fails to receive a benefit that would have exceeded the individual cost in helping purchase that good for the whole group. So, in this context, what we have actually understood, that individual effort to achieve this the particular individual interest will actually prevent their achievement, their group achievement, because in case of this individual effort, they are following the principle of rationality and they may achieve the individual interest, right. But because they are rational, that is why they will not prefer to achieve the group objectives, because once the group objectives are achieved, the benefit of these group objectives will be shared by all the members. So, there is no point that individual member will now effort for achieving the group objectives. Taking the costs and benefits into consideration, so the individual members, they follow the principles of rationality. And similarly, if you are saying taking into account the game theory and its analysis, so what we are finding, a game theory analysis of collective action to demonstrate the very logic is just the same as the prisoner's dilemma. So, in this case, if you are looking to, then in case of prisoner's dilemma, if both these prisoners, they are going to cooperate, then obviously their benefits, their group benefits will be more in comparison to their individual benefits. But they are not going to cooperate because they are following the principle that we need to be more rational. So, if you are following this rational principle, then it is better to follow that we need to go sentence free instead of going to cooperate and finding 1 year sentence for each of them. So, that is why their preference is not to cooperate rather than to defect, although cooperation begets the highest priority. So, similarly, in case of this provision of collective goods in the latent groups, if the individuals, they would follow the same rationality that we need to achieve the group objectives, then the provision of the group objectives, the provision of the collective goods for the group objectives can easily be met. But deliberately the individuals, they do not want to achieve these objectives, thinking of that what would happen to their own self interest if they are not going to be rational for themselves. So, by doing so, you are actually finding the similar situations that they could have actually cooperate by following their own individual interest for fulfilling the group interest, but they do not care. So, in this context of game theory and collective actions, as we are dealing with game theory here, we need to understand some of the major concepts that we are using here. So, first of all, what is game theory? So, this is the study of interactions, or you can say strategic decision making or strategy, set of strategies, and which one is to be picked among the rational individual here. So, the assumption is that the players are following the rational principles. And what exactly is the game? So, obviously it is a kind of strategies or the strategic intervention for decision making. And the idea is that, or the very underlying assumption is that each of these players, whatever the decision they make, it can affect the other player. So, that is what they are playing, or they are doing a kind of strategic intervention in the decision making, in both of their decisions in fact. And what exactly is the payoff? This payoff are the or in terms of loss or reward. In this example that we have taken into account, it may be a reward in terms of lessening the sentence or a loss in terms of increasing the sentence in the prison. And what is the dominant strategy? So, it is a choice that always lead to a higher payoff regardless of what the other player is choosing. So, in this case the dominant strategy is not to cooperate and not to cooperate for both of the prisoners, yielding them the highest, the preferred choice. And what exactly this prisoner's dilemma? So, it is a situation that shows how cooperation breaks down and non-cooperation is a dominant strategy. So, in prisoner's dilemma, the situation is arisen where it is unlikely to go for cooperating each other rather than preferring the non-cooperations. So, this although this situation cannot get this Pareto optimal outcome, but still the because the players they are following the dominant strategies, that is why it is leading to the situations of the prisoner's dilemma. And what exactly is the collective action dilemma here? So, these are again the situations and contexts in which the production of some groups they benefit is limited or even prevented by temptation to free ride. So, in a nutshell you can say that collective action problem is nothing but the situation which is giving rise to free riding case. That means, the individual members they will not contribute anything rather than to think that why we need to pay anything, we need to actually be accommodated with others expenditure and get the benefit out of it. And another thing in this collective action problem that we have already discussed in Hardin's theory, that is the tragedy of commons. Again it is a situation, and in this context individuals act independently and very rationally of course for achieving self interest which may be contrary to the group interest, and that is why it results in depleting some of the common pooled resources or common resources. So, that is what is already narrated by Garrett Hardin in his tragedy of the common. So, now let us after understanding the game concepts, game theory concepts and the collective action concepts, let us have a look into the individual versus collective in terms of the game theory. So, now let us have this that we are taking the payoffs of the collective or group as well as the payoffs of the individual member. How, what will be their strategies? Whether they need to pay, they will be going for payment, they will be likely to they will be liking to pay or not to pay. So, far the individual is concerned and so far the collective, a group is concerned. So, here we can say that this is the payoff. So, in this case for the provision of the collective actions, here the if individual thinks to pay and the group also thinks to pay, then your payoff would be 1-1. If the individual is thinking to pay and the group is not paying anything, then the payoffs is minus 0.8 and 0.8 and likewise. So, before understanding this payoffs matrix, let us understand what is the example where we are drawing this payoffs. So, here the row entries whatever you are finding the payoffs for the individuals and the column entries, they are per capita payoffs for collective, and here collective is defined as the group minus this particular individual which is playing, and payoffs are defined as the minus the benefits that the member is getting minus the cost he is incurring for this collective good. So, now let us narrate these situations. The scenario is that let us say the group is comprising of 10 members and here the target is the provision of a collective good, the collective good of value twice its cost. That means, its actual cost, actual benefit after the provision of this good will be twice that a particular member is spending. So, it means you can say if the collective good is x, is taken as x, then it means the market price of this collective good x, let us say is 6 rupees per unit, then the members will be paying 6 rupees to enjoy 2 units of that particular good. So, this is what the each of the members they would be paying. So, now in this context, so there are two possible results. If one member of the group declines to pay a share, then what will happen? Because sometimes we are also facing this situation, and largely in this group behavior, the members they want to free ride. So, if in a case in a group a member declines to pay its own share, then what will happen? What is the possible scenarios? So, either the total benefits will be proportionately be reduced, or the second one could be the cost to each of the members of the group now will be increased proportionately, because one is not paying. So, if you are taking the former case here, right, and we are assuming that there is no initial cost in providing the collective good, and there is also no differential cost as payments, and the resultant benefits it will be giving rise to. So, in this context we are actually talking about this exactly 2 units of collective goods, that is x, which will be provided for each units paid by the individual members in the group. So, if the individual member is paying 6 rupees, then they must be getting 2 units of the collective good itself, that is x. So, now as you understand that in this group we are having 10 members. So, if all the members pay for 1 unit for this collective good, then the total amount that would be paid for the 10 units itself, and the benefits each member will get is 2 units of x, although the cost they are paying is for 1 unit. So, now the amount of collective good is 20 units, because they are paying for 10 units and they will be getting double of the value. So, that is why they will be getting 20 units of the collective good. So, the individual payoff in this situation can be defined as benefits minus costs. So, what is benefits minus cost? That means an individual member is paying for 1 unit of the collective good, however, he is getting 2 units of collective goods in return. So, that is why if you want to define individual payoffs, then it will be the total benefits minus cost, that is 2 units minus 1 unit is 1 unit here. So, now we can understand this payoff table, that is individual versus the collective. So, if you can write it down, then you will be finding that if the individual is paying and the collective they will be also paying, then the payoff would be 1-1. Individual will be getting the benefit of one collective good, and the group is also going to get the benefit of one collective good. If both of them are paying, individual is paying as a member and the collective, all the members they are paying, that is why collective is paying. So, it is 1-1. So, now let us think, because the free riding is an essential characteristics of this collective issue or collective action. So, if a particular individual is not willing to pay, then what will happen? So, if the individual will not pay, then out of 10 members, 1 member is not going to pay. How many members are paying? It is exactly 9 members who are paying. So, 9 members paying means for how many units of collective goods? It is twice. 9 into 2 is 18. So, 18 now the benefit is 18 and it's not and this 18 needs to be shared by all the members in the group, that is 10 members. So, payoff for share would be 18 divided by 10, that is 1.8. So, if the individual is not paying, he is getting a share of 1.8. What will be the payoff for the collective? It will be 0.8, because if all the members are paying, it will be 1, but now 1 member is not paying, that means 1 minus 0.2 is 0.8. So, this is 0.8. So, now let us discuss, if the collective is not paying, only the individual is paying, what will be happening? So, the collective is paying, individual is paying and the collective is not paying. What will be the payoff? It will be obviously negative. Why? Only one individual is paying and others are not paying, but the benefit is going to be shared. So, that is why it will be, once it will be shared, the payoffs are going to be decreased and it will be minus 0.8 and minus 2. And if the individual is not paying and the collective is not paying, then obviously there is no question of providing the provision of the collective good itself. So, now let us actually think about this minus 8 and minus 2. So, we are already done with this. We need to think about this, the individual is paying, but collective is not paying, that means only one individual is paying. So, in this case the total amount of payment is how many? 1 rupees obviously the particular individual is paying, and how many collective units can be procured by exchanging this 1 unit of money? Then obviously it is 2. 1 unit paying 1 rupees money, you can procure 2 units of this collective good. So, now this benefit is to be going to be shared. So, the per capita share would be how many? The benefit is here 2 units of collective goods and it must be shared by all the members, 10 members, although the rest of the 9 members they are not paying. So, what is the per capita share now? 2 divided by 10 is 0.2. So, the individual payoff here, as you understand that it is defined by taking into account benefits minus costs. So, here per capita share of benefit out of this collective good is 0.2. What is the cost the individual is bearing? He is paying 1 rupees. So, how what is the individual payoff here? 0.2 minus 1 is minus 0.8. So, this is the case where the individual is paying, but rest of these 9 members in the group they are not paying. So, now what would be the payoff for the group? That is the benefit, right. So, here again benefits minus costs. So, the total benefits is 0.2 and what is the cost, total cost the group is paying? It is 0. So, it is 0.2. So, in this case the dominant strategies for both these as an individual member and the collective is not to pay, because if they are not paying then they are actually getting more share out of it, and not pay is the only equilibrium in this case. And you can say that how this equilibrium is defined. So, you can say this outcome is to be in equilibrium condition if no player has an incentive unilaterally to switch over the strategies. That means, no player is thinking that I should go for paying. If this is the strategies, then this equilibrium condition would not have occurred. But however, when you are saying that they can actually mutually cooperate, and in that case their share would be more, would have been more. That is why the existing scenario for the equilibrium is not Pareto equilibrium. And this is the similar to your collective action problem, and the same collective action problem is explained through this payoff matrix, where we are saying it is the dominant strategies that is not to pay and not to pay, that means we are not cooperating. Although if you are going to cooperate, you will be getting more benefits, right, or it is generally the choice that one should cooperate, but following the individual rationality they are not cooperating. So, this is the same conclusion we are drawing in the collective action case also. So, you need to actually explore the original contribution. This is the reference for this chapter, collective action chapter 2, and you can follow this book chapter 2 collective action by Hardin Russell. So, this actually defines that how this collective action problem be explained in terms of this prisoner's dilemma, and how the collective action issues and problems can be explained by taking different strategies like game theory is taking. So, in the next class we will be explaining another theory in explaining this collective action problem, that is Ostrom's, Elinor Ostrom's theory that explain a kind of solutions to the collective action problem, and perhaps this is the latest theory that we will be dealing with in explaining the case of collective actions. Thank you very much.